Okay, so you want to own a Chick-fil-A. And here's the part that sounds like a typo. The franchise fee is $10,000. Not $2 million. Not $200,000. $10,000. Less than a used car. Compare that to the last machine we took apart on this channel. Opening a McDonald's runs $1.5 to $2.5 million before you sell a single fry. A Chick-fil-A costs about the price of a used Honda. And this isn't some struggling brand giving tickets away. Chick-fil-A did over $22 billion in United States sales in 2024, across roughly 3,100 locations. That makes it the third largest restaurant chain in America by sales, behind only McDonald's and Starbucks. And it got there with a fraction of their store count, while closed one full day every week. A single Chick-fil-A sells more food than almost any restaurant in the country. So the plan in your head is simple and beautiful. Put down $10,000. Run the busiest drive-thru on the block. Keep the profits. Retire your family. Here's the first surprise, and it's a big one. You can't actually buy a Chick-fil-A. Not for $10,000. Not for $10 million. It is not for sale at any price. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why the cheapest famous franchise in America is also the one almost nobody is allowed to have. Because here's the thing, almost nobody outside the company understands. A Chick-fil-A is not a franchise you buy. It's a job you apply for. You don't own a Chick-fil-A. Chick-fil-A owns everything and hires one person to run it. The land, the building, the fryers, the brand. All of it stays on the corporate books. You bring $10,000 and your own two hands, and in exchange, you get the right to operate their restaurant. This year. Remember the McDonald's video? There, the corporation is a landlord, and you're the tenant who paid to build on their land. Chick-fil-A flips it. Here, the corporation is the employer, and you are the most carefully chosen manager in American business, handed a share of the profits instead of a paycheck. It looks like a franchise. It behaves like the most selective job in the country wearing a franchise costume. Hold that idea. Every strange number you're about to hear snaps into focus the second you accept it. So let's talk about that $10,000 ticket and what it actually buys. According to Chick-fil-A's own franchising page, the fee has to be paid in non-borrowed, non-gifted cash. And for your $10,000, you get exactly one thing: the right to operate a Chick-fil-A. You do not get the land. You do not get the building. You do not get the equipment. You are buying a job title, not a property. Now here's where the real price hides. And it isn't measured in money. It's measured in odds. Chick-fil-A gets around 60,000 franchise inquiries every single year. Out of those 60,000, they select roughly 75 to 80 new operators. Do that math, and the acceptance rate lands near 0.1%. Business Insider ran the comparison in 2019. It is about 30 times harder to become a Chick-fil-A operator than it is to get into Harvard. Lower odds than any Ivy League school on earth. And getting picked is not a quick application. The selection runs for months, sometimes longer. Interviews, financial review, personality and values screening. The whole machine designed to find people who will run the store the corporate way for decades. They are not looking for investors. They are hiring for a marriage. $10,000 gets you a seat at the table. It does not get you a chair. And even if you're one of the chosen few, there's a catch built into the offer. Chick-fil-A requires you to divest yourself of your other businesses, quit your other job, and run this restaurant full-time, hands-on, in person. No passive investors, no portfolio owners, no managing it from a beach. The cheapest franchise in America will only sell to someone willing to give up everything else to work the counter. Say the impossible happens and you're selected. Now the meter starts, and this is where the model gets its teeth. Chick-fil-A picks the site, buys the land, constructs the building, and stocks it with equipment. The hustle estimated in 2024 that corporate spends somewhere between $340,000 and $2 million to open each restaurant. You contributed $10,000. So who owns the store? Not a chance it's you. Then comes the split, and it is unlike almost anything else in franchising. Every month, Chick-fil-A takes about 15% of your gross sales right off the top. That's the base operating fee. But it doesn't stop there. Whatever profit is left after expenses gets divided down the middle, 50-50 between you and corporate. For comparison, KFC or Subway take somewhere around 4 to 8% of sales and leave the rest to you. Chick-fil-A takes 15% of everything, and then half of what survives. On a store selling $9 million a year, that 15% alone is roughly $1.4 million. Handed to corporate before you've paid a single employee, a single chicken supplier, a single electric bill. And then you split the leftovers with them too. But look closely and you'll see why an operator signs it anyway. In a normal franchise, you carry all the capital risk. You borrow $2 million, you build the store, you're personally on the hook if it fails. Here, Chick-fil-A carries that risk. Corporate spent the money on the land and the building. You didn't borrow a dime. So the heavy split isn't just a fee. It's rent on a machine you never had to buy, run by a company that has removed almost every way for you to fail. Here's where the whole thing finally reveals itself. After all of that, the selection, the work, the 15%, the split, you own nothing. Zero equity. Read that slowly. You cannot sell your Chick-fil-A. You cannot pass it down to your children. There is no lump sum payout waiting for you at the end. No buyer, no exit. The operator agreement renews on a short cycle, and corporate can simply choose not to renew it. Think about what that means next to the McDonald's operator from our last video. That owner at least holds the physical build-out, the equipment bolted to a floor they helped pay for, a franchise they can eventually sell to an approved buyer for millions. The Chick-fil-A operator holds none of that. You own a one-period license to run someone else's restaurant, and the moment you stop, you walk away with exactly what you walked in with. Nothing but what you managed to save. So the most coveted franchise in America turns out not to be a franchise at all. It's the best paid manager's job in the country. And the manager spends 20 years building a beautiful, valuable asset that will never, ever be his. So why on earth would 60,000 people fight every year for a job like that? Because, and this is the honest part, it pays like nothing else in the business. A typical freestanding Chick-fil-A, the standalone kind with a drive-through, sold an average of $9.3 million of food in 2024, according to the company's own disclosures reported by QSR magazine. That is the highest per-restaurant sales figure in American fast food. More than double a McDonald's, which averaged about $4 million a year over the same period. And Chick-fil-A does that number while closed every single Sunday. Founder Truett Cathy closed his very first restaurant on Sundays back in 1946, and the company has never opened one since. 6 operating days, and each store still outsells rivals that run all 7. One quick warning on that $9 million figure though. It's the average for a freestanding, standalone location. Put a Chick-fil-A inside a shopping mall and the average drops closer to 3 or 4 million a year. The blended figure across every kind of store sits nearer 7.5 million. Which store you're handed matters enormously, and you don't get to choose. Now bring back the split. The operator's take-home is not officially published, but analysts who study the model estimate an operator keeps somewhere around 5 to 7% of revenue. On a busy store, that is $200,000 a year, climbing toward $400,000 or more at the highest volume locations. Now stack that against your investment. You put in $10,000. There is no other business in America where a $10,000 entry fee can lead to a job paying several $100,000 a year, with no real estate risk, no brand risk, and a corporation engineering failure out of the building for you. That is the trade. That is why the line never gets shorter. But there are teeth in this deal, and they bite the people who misread it. First trap, one restaurant. The entire model is built on the phrase, one operator, one restaurant. Chick-fil-A now lets a small, proven group run up to 3 traditional locations, but their own myths page calls that the exception, not the plan. You are not building an empire of 40 stores. You are running one by hand for a very long time. Second trap, you cannot phone it in. Full-time, on-the-floor operation is not a suggestion. Semi-absentee ownership is strictly prohibited. You cannot hire a general manager and go play golf. If you wanted a business that runs without you, this is the exact opposite. Third trap, the missing exit. 20 years in, you will have run a store doing millions a year, and you will own nothing you can sell. No equity, no buyer, no inheritance for your kids. And the fourth, the quiet one, the renewal. Your agreement comes up on a short cycle, and corporate holds the leash. Underperform, clash with the culture, or simply fall out of favor, and the relationship ends, and you leave with what you came in with. You are not a franchise owner. You are the most replaceable millionaire in fast food. Let's run the plain arithmetic on one store. Say yours does $9 million a year, a strong freestanding location. Corporate's 15% comes off the very top. That's $1,350,000, gone before anything else happens. Now pay the restaurant, food and paper, labor, utilities, insurance, maintenance. In fast food, those costs eat the large majority of revenue. Whatever profit is left after all of that, you split 50-50 with corporate. The company does not publish store-level net profit, so treat this next part as an estimate, not gospel. The sourced range puts the operator's residual near 5 to 7% of revenue. On $9 million in sales, that's roughly $450,000 to $630,000 into your pocket. Now run the same percentages on a weaker store, a mall location doing $3.5 million a year, and the operator's take drops to somewhere around $175,000 to $245,000. Here's the part that breaks people's brains. Your return on invested cash is almost meaningless to calculate because you only invested $10,000. But notice what all that revenue never produced, a single dollar of equity you can sell. It is the best salary in fast food, wearing the mask of ownership. So picture the two versions of your life as an operator. In the good version, you survived the 1 in 1,000 selection. Corporate handed you a freestanding drive-through, and you ran it beautifully. $9 million a year and climbing. You performed well enough that the company invited you to take a second store, then a third, the rare exception to the one restaurant rule. You cleared north of $400,000 a year for 2 decades. By any honest measure, it was a phenomenal career. In the other version, nothing dramatic goes wrong. You simply drew a mall location instead of a marquee drive-through. Sales sit at $3.5 million instead of $9 million. Your income lands at the low end of the range, and the invitation to a second store never comes. You work hard for 20 years. You earn a genuinely good living. And then one day, it ends. You hand back the keys. There's no building to sell, no franchise to transfer, no equity to leave your children. You had one of the best jobs in the country. You just never had a business. And that's the real answer to, can I own a Chick-fil-A for $10,000? You can't own one for $10,000, and you can't own one for $10 million because it was never for sale in the first place. What $10,000 actually buys is a lottery ticket for the most selective job in America. Hand over your other ambitions, beat odds lower than Harvard's, and if you're the 1 in 1,000 they pick, you get to run the most profitable restaurant on the street. A restaurant that will never, for one single day, belong to you. You didn't buy a Chick-fil-A. A Chick-fil-A hired you. You don't own it. It owns you.